worldwide.
Hello everyone, I'm TG and I'm here talking about the amazing new Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. Now, veterans of Rainbow Six Siege shouldn't have too big a problem picking it up, but if you're new to the series, I want to give you guys 15 essential tips that you need to know for not only the main game, but also for Maelstrom Protocol. These are going to be tips and tricks that the game does not tell you, but you absolutely need to master them if you want to excel. So grab your react blades, and in no particular order, let's dive right in. So as you've probably figured out by now, Rainbow Six Extraction is all about stealth. Nothing ruins a run quite like an Archie that lets out a howl and lights all the nests ablaze. Now if you know you're not going to be able to kill an enemy before he gets the howl off, run up to them and give them a melee. Melee basically stuns almost any enemy in any state, so it's going to stop a howl, but it also stops breachers and bloaters from exploding. It's actually far more useful than a lot of people realize, because it does a deceptive amount of damage. Even on the highest difficulty, 2 to 3 melees is going to take down a grunt. You're also able to stun tormentors, spikers, pretty much anything except an apex and a smasher. So when in doubt, melee and run. And don't forget, melee can actually destroy sprawl as well. Likely one of, if not the most important system that the game doesn't tell you is while you're aiming and you push in the analog sticks, you'll actually cock your head left and right. Now on paper that doesn't seem like a big deal, but believe me, it is. Not only does this allow you to aim around corners, but even when you're on a straightaway, doing this, especially against a spiker, will really up your chances of not taking a hit. And if you do this while moving left and right, you will very rarely take damage. It's a little bit difficult to master as it does kind of throw your whole center of aiming off kilt at first. Once you master it, it will become like second nature. Now let's talk about the upgraded UV light you get from hitting rank 25. As you're all aware, the game tells you that you can use this UV light to destroy sprawl on the ground. However, what it doesn't tell you is it actually damages enemies as well. Though the damage it does is quite limited, there's a few situations you can use it where it really helps. It'll instantly destroy any blinding spores, it'll instantly destroy any sower mines, and you can also use it to destroy the charges from the Archon tree before they reach your operator. One final thing I do want to mention about the upgraded UV light is although it does destroy sprawl, I see a lot of players doing this whenever they're on the run. It's much faster, much more efficient to use your weapon to destroy the sprawl when you're running away from enemies. Your stealth is already broken, and the UV light is just way too slow to do so safely. Next is one that pains me to see, and I still see it so often. I really do wish the game told you about this one. When you are rescuing your knocked out teammates and you have to bring them back to the exfil point, you do not need to put them in the pod. All you need to do is make sure they're on the landing pad and end the mission. That way, nobody loses their operator. I cannot count the amount of times that I have seen somebody pick up a body and try to put it in the pod and get gunned down in the process, and thus everybody goes MIA. It's especially sad when somebody works so hard to rescue both of their teammates, and because they had to put them both in the pod, they end up taking a hit and going down themselves. So remember, your goal is just to get them to that landing pad and exfiltrate. Now on that note, I also want to mention, you can drop the operator at any time. A lot of people don't really think about that. Think about when you're using a character such as Vigil. If you drop the operator, engage your cloak, and then pick up the operator again, you're basically invisible. So if you need to use your skills, don't be afraid to drop your buddy, use it, and then pick him back up and get where you need to go. Next is one that the game does tell you, but it's often overlooked. Anytime you pick up a React Tech box, not only are you refilling your items, you're also going to be refilling your barricades, your revive kit, your armor if you've brought it, and refreshing the recharge on your drones. So if you and the team have just completed a particularly difficult objective, don't just keep your eyes peeled for those first aid kits. Look for React Tech boxes as well, because they can save your life just as much. While playing Maelstrom Protocol, you might start to realize things are looking a little bit familiar. And the reason is, item spawns and mutations are set in Maelstrom Protocol. This means practice, preparation, and memorization are key. PPM, ladies and gents. Knowing how many medkits there are, how many react techs there are, how many ammunitions there are, and where they spawn is really, really important, especially if you're playing with randoms in quick play. Whether you just want to complete it or you're trying to maximize your score, knowing where everything is and where you need to go to avoid as many fights as possible is key. I've seen many a Maelstrom destroyed because one member of the team didn't memorize the map or doesn't exactly know what to do and kind of goes off and does their own thing. So my advice is, if you're not familiar yet, stick with your team. At least one person's probably done it before and knows which way is which. Next is a tip that's actually really useful once you realize that you can do it. If a member of your team is KO'd and there's just absolutely no way that you're getting to that extraction, pick them up and head to the airlock instead. Chances are you're going to have a much easier time in a fresh subzone getting to the extraction than you would in the subzone that things have already gone south in. And even if the new subzone does give you trouble, just leave them in the airlock, and before you leave, bring them to the extraction so no one goes MIA. Next is one you may have already done by accident. If you're on the run and you're reloading, anytime you jump through a window, vault over an obstacle, or fall from any kind of distance, the reload animation will continue while you're falling. This is a valuable way to save precious milliseconds whenever you're on the run, especially whenever you're using a weapon with a long reload time like a heavy machine gun. Basically, you want to make sure your weapon has the most amount of uptime that it possibly can. Here's another simple one that can make all the difference. If you hit the pause menu, I play on the PS5, so it would be the touchpad. It'll bring up a mini-map of the zone, and at the bottom of that mini-map, it'll tell you how many of each box there are on the map. So not only will this give you a tactical overview of the entire map, it'll also let you know if the box that you're looking for is even still available. One thing to keep in mind though, is these numbers do include any boxes that are found in the airlock on the way to the next subzone. This next one is what I consider the most important one on this list: partial reload animations. What this means is when you're reloading with most guns, basically anything except a heavy machine gun, anytime you reload with more than 0 in the clip, you're going to get a different reload animation than you would if the gun was completely dry. And 10 times out of 10, this reload animation is faster than the regular one. So again, it all comes back to maximizing the amount of uptime on your gun. Thankfully, this is a video game. We're not living in the real world. So anytime you reload a half-empty clip, you still get to keep those bullets. So there's really no reason not to. Next is another one that many of you may already know, but in case you don't, whenever you're in the airlock and you're going to the next subzone, any enemies in there with you will get killed instantly. Alternatively, whenever you're extracting on the landing pad, any enemies there will also get killed. So the priority in these rooms should not be killing the enemies, it should be transitioning to the next room or extracting. That way you don't have to worry about the enemies at all, and you can focus on just staying alive. Next, I have one that might be subject to change, but as it stands now, it's pretty solid. Whenever you're playing the assignments, whether it be kick the anthill or wall to wall, you don't need to worry about stealth. That means don't bring your suppressor, don't worry about using your UV light, because the enemies are going to be alerted regardless. All you need to do is focus on killing them as fast as possible and getting to your objective. While we're on the topic of assignments, I just want to briefly touch on who the best operator is for the assignments that we've seen so far. When it comes to wall, I've got to say the best operator has to be Nomad. Her air jab is a thing of beauty whenever you see a huge group of grunts coming towards you, or you're holding up just before the airlock and you're getting overwhelmed. She'll be able to kill them all in one shot and really take the heat off the team. And when talking about kick the anthill, I don't think it's any surprise that you gotta use Fuse. His charges are basically able to clear all the aberrant nests before the rest of the team can even fire a bullet. Kick the anthill's already easy, but really using Fuse just makes it trivial. Next, let's talk about blinding spores. Now, if you're like me, these things have been the reason you've lost a couple operators, but there's a few ways that you can take care of them. I've already talked about using the UV light to destroy them, but you can also use a stun grenade, a frag grenade, or a paralysis grenade to destroy them in the environment as well as when they're on you. So if you don't have a teammate around, throw a grenade at your feet and continue on with your day. Another less common way to get rid of them is if you see a sower flashbang, walk over it and it will actually destroy all the blinding spores on you free of charge. And the flashbang is much less punishing than the blinding spores would be if they went off. And finally, if you're really desperate, you can actually switch on your UV light and melee a wall. Sometimes that'll take care of a few blinding spores on you, but it won't take care of all of them, so use at your own risk. Next, I want to give you guys a few tips when it comes to stealth and how it works in the game. Basically, the golden rule is stealth is dictated by line of sight. If an enemy can see you, they can detect you, and if they can detect you, they can roar. So what you want to do is stay out of their line of sight as much as possible. That means throwing barricades on windows, closing doors, etc. Make it a habit of closing doors behind you or closing doors into rooms that you're not going to go into. And whenever you get a chance, barricade windows, because unlike whenever you barricade a wall, window barricades are infinite. You can do any amount of windows in the entire map. Another thing worth mentioning when it comes to stealth is that your upgraded UV light will actually break stealth if you're hitting an enemy with it. So if you're close by and trying to line up a headshot but your UV light is on, keep in mind that enemy is going to go into alert status, even if you're stealthed with somebody like Vigil. So make sure you flip that off before you take your shot or you try to sneak by. And lastly, I want to mention one that's going to dynamically change how you play the game. Certain pieces of tech, such as the field wall, and certain operator abilities, like Alibi's clones, can be picked up after they're thrown. So an example as to why this is important is when we look at the field walls. If you're dealing with a lot of Tormentors, a lot of Apexes, if you throw down field walls, you know how useful they are. However, before they expire, run up to them and pick them back up. What that's going to do is refresh them in your inventory and basically give you unlimited field walls. Other things that this works for are, like I said, Alibi's clones, Ella and Nomad's stuns as long as they haven't hit an enemy, Fuse's charges, and Jaeger's charges. And similar to this, you can also recover a drone if instead of just dropping it, you press the button to recall the drone. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, this one is a game changer. So that's the list. I really hope this helps you guys out on your quest to eradicate the Archies. And if you've come this far, I got a little something extra for you. What I want you to do is hop into Liberty Island and head to the museum. Once you're there, go to the extraction point and look into the water. What you're going to see is a little soldier sitting in a boat. Do what any good React team member does and shoot him right in the head. You're welcome. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope it helps you out just a little bit. And don't forget, down in the comments, if you got any more tips that you want to add, be sure to post them there and I will archive them as best as I can, because what I want is for this video to become a resource for all the new players jumping into this amazing game. And as always, I'm TG. If you like what you saw, you know what to do.